You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. Mr. Mo Kelly here. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And when the show Later with Mo Kelly first began, this is now our third year, but when it first began in January of 2023, on the very first week of shows, we were joined in studio by Chris Woolsey, who was working for a different company back then, which no longer exists, but he is back with us now. He is the Associate Director of Communications for Vizio, as in Vizio TV, and he joins me now. Chris, it's great to see you. Let me just say happy belated New Year, and it's great to have you back on this show.
Oh, my gosh. I cannot tell you how excited I've been counting the days. Happy New Year, belated as well to you, and so excited to be here. I can't even tell you.
When you were last year, it was common that you would come in and tell us about various titles that were available for people to watch for free. More importantly than anything, for free. Jewels and they were just gems that people didn't necessarily know about, or we did know about them, and it was great to revisit them. Do we have something similar this time around?
We do at that. So Vizio has a free streaming entertainment service on Vizio TVs called WatchFree Plus. But,
I have 2 Vizios at home, so yes.
Well, there you go. You've got twice the free entertainment coming your way. But the great thing is you don't have to own a Vizio TV in order to watch WatchFree Plus. All you have to do is download the Vizio app and click on the WatchFree Plus tab, and you also can watch free movies and TV shows. We have tens of thousands of movies and TV shows. It's unbelievable. It is an endless fount of free entertainment.
Okay, I can do this on my phone right now.
Right now you can. Yes, you just have to download the app, create a free account, and you're off to the races.
I can do it on my TV when I get home, on the ones that are not Vizios.
No, only on Vizio TVs in your home, but the mobile app you can watch on your phone or tablet.
I asked that because I know, and I'm not disregarding the moment that we're in. I know there are a lot of people who have lost their homes. There are a lot of people who have lost everything, and they maybe only have their phones. They're possibly looking for some degree of escape or something reminiscent of normalcy or normality. And that's part of the reason why we're talking about this in this particular moment. Let's get into some of these free offerings, because free is always really important.
It's my favorite price. Free and free.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with some action flicks on Vizio WatchFree Plus.
Okay.
One of my absolute favorite action films of all time, the 1997 classic Air Force One.
Get off my plane.
That's it. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
You have Harrison Ford. You have Gary Oldman.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who else is.
Glenn Close.
Glenn Close,
as the vice president.
Yes.
But you had Harrison Ford at his peak. You had Gary Oldman at his peak. Maybe the greatest leading man.
He's still in his peak.
And it is true. It is true. But like literally maybe the greatest leading man and greatest villain of the last 40 years in the same movie.
I think that movie is grossly underappreciated.
I would agree with you.
It doesn't have the same type of cachet as far as cult classics as other movies. But when you really sit down with it and watch, and you think of all the great talent in that movie, I don't know if you can get all those people together again.
No. And the plot is so fun. I mean, Gary Oldman hijacks the president's plane and then realizes that he chose to tangle with the wrong president. And
this was way before its time. Before you had White House Down or Olympus Has Fallen and all that. Yep. The whole idea of commandeering. I mean, the only thing I could think that was close to it was maybe Escape from New York.
Oh, I just made my son watch that the other day. Such a
good for you. You're a good father. Every child should grow up learning about Snake Plissken.
That's what I'm saying. Kurt Russell is so great in that movie. Oh, Awesome.
But anyhow, Air Force One.
Air Force One, directed by Wolfgang Petersen, who's one of my absolute favorite directors, who directed the classic Das Boot.
The Boat.
Yes, The Boat. And the Lou Gossett Jr., Dennis Quaid sci-fi classic, Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine, yes.
Which I believe we've talked about
Yes,
before.
we have.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that film. But I also love it because a good friend of mine, J. Scott Shanka, is actually one of the Special Forces Rangers who zip lines into the pilot area of the plane at the end of the film. And he says, "We're here to save you, Mr. President."
That's oh gosh, it's weird because I know every line in every scene of that movie.
Yeah, I know. It's eminently quotable.
What else you have?
Well, a favorite of yours and mine, the 1995 Western classic, The Quick and the Dead.
Mark Ronner, that is an undeniable classic. Is it not? Or are you going to disagree with me?
No, it's Sam Raimi, isn't it? That's
Yes,
good.
it
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. You got Gene Hackman. You have Leonardo DiCaprio. You have Sharon Stone. You have Lance Henriksen.
And young Russell Crowe as well.
Crowe. Russell Crowe.
Gary Sinise.
Gary Sinise. Keith David. I mean, you have...
It's ridiculous.
And
like
you've
so
got
much
that one
talent.
shot in it through the gunshot wound that I think made film history. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Tons of fun.
All I can
so
say
great.
is I was in love with some Sharon Stone in that movie. I said, I need to be Leonardo DiCaprio, I tell you.
Right? Yeah. She was the most Sharon Stone
Yes.
in that film. Yep. So great. She plays a gunslinger, enters a quick draw tournament to avenge her father's death. And yeah, like you said, directed by Sam Raimi, who is one of my favorites, directed Evil Dead 1 and 2, Army of Darkness, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and about a million other super fun movies.
Too bad they killed everyone in that movie because I would have loved to have seen some sort of sequel.
I know. I'm surprised because Raimi loves him a good sequel.
Right. But of course, again, you'll never get that cast back together again.
No.
Never.
Nope.
Never.
Absolutely
Not even for a prequel.
That's true.
Let's get one more in before we go to break.
All right. This, I think, is an underrated film. And this is the 2001 period action comedy, A Knight's Tale, starring Heath Ledger.
I don't think I've seen that. Mark, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, it's not bad. I didn't retain as much of it as I should, though. Remind me who directed that.
That is a great question. I am actually blanking.
If only we had some high-tech method for finding these things out on the fly.
Where we could look that up.
Ryan Helgeland?
Oh, yeah, the guy who did L.A. Confidential wrote it.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, he wrote and directed that.
Yeah,
and that was that was a starring vehicle for Heath Ledger.
It was the first movie, I feel like, where people actually sat up and went, oh, wait, this guy's going to be a freaking star.
Yeah, and his sidekick in that was Paul Bettany.
But yes, it was. Yep. Rufus Sewell's in it. He's spectacular.
Yeah, wait a minute. Now you're going to have us branch off into like The Diplomat and what he's doing on that show.
The Man in the High Castle.
Oh my!
Dark City.
He's
I love
vastly
Woolsey.
underappreciated as well.
I literally have that sentence written on the paper here.
Well, I'm psychic.
I know.
Sense, yeah.
I know.
You got some good ones today. Oh, some good ones.
We do. But yeah, Heath Ledger plays a squire who fakes being a royal. He's Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein from Gelderland, which I was
That's a mouthful.
I was this many years old when I learned that Gelderland is actually a real place in the Netherlands. I've seen this movie like 5 times and I always thought it was made up, but it's actually a real place. And I cannot say enough good things. It's super fun. It's a new way of telling an old story. It's great. I love this movie. So much fun.
If you like slow-mo rock and roll jousting, this is your movie.
That's it. And that's a niche audience.
Yeah,
I'll give
yeah.
it to you, but it's a fantastic film.
I got to say, it's great to have Chris Woolsey back in studio with us. He's now Associate Director of Communications for Vizio TV. And when we come back on the other side, where do you think you'll lead us?
I'm going to go, I didn't get quite enough spooky movies during Halloween. So I'm going to take a swing through our terror titles.
Now, I don't know if you remember this, but Mark Runner, our newsman, is our resident horror/spooky movies maven, critic, auteur.
PTSD sufferer.
I absolutely did remember that, which is why we are going to talk about those.
That's coming up next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI Mo Kelly live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app, and I'm in the middle of a conversation with a very close friend and contributor. He was here with us in recent years, but then he had a change of scenery, as they say, and Chris Woolsey is back. He's now Associate Director of Communications for Vizio TV. And Chris, your love of movies has not changed, and thankfully for you and for us, we still get to enjoy movies together. Last segment, we talked about action movies, which are available on their. Tell me about the channel, the Vizio TV channel.
So Vizio has a free entertainment streaming service called WatchFree Plus, and anyone who has a Vizio TV can watch WatchFree Plus. There's tens of thousands of free movies and TV shows on there. You can stream till your heart's content. But if you don't own a Vizio TV, all you have to do is download the Vizio app, sign up for a free account, and click on the WatchFree Plus tab, and you also can watch tons and tons of free entertainment.
Free.
Absolutely free, 90 free.
No cost.
Zero cost. So great.
It doesn't cost to download the app.
Nope.
They don't ask to take your credit card for like a free period of 7 to 14 days.
Nope. How great is that?
Let's get into the movies now.
Let's do it.
You have another slate of offerings, this time on the horror side of things.
We do. So we have a lot of different genres on WatchFree Plus, but one of my favorites, and Mark Ronner's favorite, are the top tier terror titles. And
top tier terror titles. Can you say it 2 times fast?
I like alliteration. Top tier terror titles. Top tier terror titles. I love it. Love it. Yeah, we've got, there's just endless amounts of fantastic horror films. But one of my faves, and it's because of my love for the lead actor in this that we have talked about more times than I care to admit on this show, is Nicolas Cage.
You know, I'm lifelong Nicolas Cage fan.
Absolutely.
He could do no wrong. There's some movies which I think are beneath him, but
sure,
not because of him.
Yep. No, but I remember seeing Valley Girl as a kid and just going, I love this guy. He's so much fun.
It's weird because when you think about it, he's been around for a good 35 years, 40 years.
Yep. I met him one time, and at the end of our conversation, I said, can I tell you my favorite movie of yours? And he said, sure. And I said, Valley Girl. And he got a huge smile on his face, and he stuck out his hand and he shook my hand. He said, I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that. Thank you so much.
Is his in-person personality similar to his on-screen quirkiness persona?
That was actually the word that, as you were coming up with that question, I was going, he was quirky. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. But very nice guy and a good tipper, I will say. I was waiting tables.
Okay, please.
I was going to say, as soon as the sentence came out of my mouth, I was like, I really need to explain that.
Yeah, I think the conversation almost took a different turn that I wasn't ready for.
Yes, did he tuck the tip?
Yikes. Ooh. Yikes. I'm not even sure what that means, but...
Like in your G-string.
Oh, yes, no. No one has ever put a tip in my G-string, I will tell you that.
Where were we?
We were talking about the 2007 classic Ghost Rider.
Yes, Ghost Rider.
It's obviously based on the Marvel Comics series, starring Nicolas Cage, but also Eva Mendes from Hitch.
Oh,
the lovely Eva Mendes.
Very lovely.
Sam Elliott from Roadhouse.
If I could, look, I'm a guy who works in radio. Before I die, my only dream is to have a voice like Sam Elliott.
Oh, my gosh.
You know what damage I could have done as a single man with a voice like that? Sam, even back to when I first discovered Roadhouse, that voice was something else.
He sounded like he gargled glass and smoked cigar in utero. And
it works for him.
It does. Absolutely. He's amazing.
He's still aging well, too.
He is. But back to Cage. In this movie, Nicolas Cage plays Johnny Blaze, who's a motorcycle stuntman, sells his soul to the devil to save his father. Of course, as these things always go, he's swindled by the devil.
No.
Yes, I know. I don't know why people keep trusting him, but he has to become basically the devil's bounty hunter in order to try to get his soul back.
And that deal probably won't.
No, it's not going to
work out either.
It's not going to pan out.
No.
And he turns into a flaming skeleton, which is also a kind of a downside.
But it's a nice party trick.
It is. This is true. But it's packed with comic booky goodness.
Yep.
Super fun. Check out Ghost Rider.
I think we got time for one more.
Okay. Well, on the other end of the spectrum,
We got two more, maybe.
two more?
Yeah.
Okay, good. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the camp of Ghost Rider.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, we've got the classic goodness of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is the 1994 version, and it's amazing for a few reasons. One of which is that I felt like it was the first time that arguably one of the greatest stories ever written had a cast that supported the actual novel. Like, it's pretty amazing.
I'm always amazed that you can still go back to the classics and tell meaningful versions of them in today's world, given we're inundated with bump, jump, scare type movies, which are not like a classic Mary Shelley Frankenstein or The Mummy, or Mark Ron just saw Nosferatu.
Yep. I mean, how many remakes of Dracula? I mean, it's interesting because Nosferatu was actually a remake of Dracula
right.
in the original.
Right.
They were
Unauthorized,
Yeah, they were trying to get away without paying the rights, and then ended up getting sued and lost that. But yeah, it was great. But this version of Frankenstein is really incredible. It's directed by famed Shakespearean wunderkind Kenneth Branagh, who also plays the titular character.
And was a guest on the show, but go ahead.
Oh, is that right?
Wait, what?
Yeah,
When
Kenneth
was
Branagh.
that?
When he did, what was the first one? Death of Now?
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Yes, it was after he did Thor and everything. Yes, Kenneth and I, we go way back.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, he's another one of my interviews that you didn't get.
And you text each other all the time.
That's it.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, he was on the show.
Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, he plays the titular Victor, and I just say that because I like saying the
Say
word
it.
titular.
Titular.
Victor Frankenstein. A lot of people don't realize the book Frankenstein is named after the doctor, not the monster.
Right.
Yeah,
Most people get it wrong.
Exactly.
It's Frankenstein's monster. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it also has Helena Bonham Carter, Aidan Quinn,
that's not a bad cast.
John Cleese.
Never heard of him.
Right. Sir Ian Holm, who was knighted. By the way, John Cleese was offered a knighthood and he turned it down.
That's John Cleese.
Isn't that John Cleese?
Yeah, that's very John Cleese.
Total on brand.
I can hear him cussing about why he shouldn't accept it. But
Right. And on top of that, you have Robert De Niro as the monster. How ridiculous is that?
Wasn't that the weirdest casting choice ever?
Very weird.
It kind of like defeats the purpose of having Robert De Niro.
I know. Yeah.
Now he's played a monster in other movies like Cape Fear, but not monster.
But he is scary in that.
Yes,
movie.
he is.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But everything about this thing is top shelf. Amazing directing, art design, costuming, performances, which again is only fitting of one of the greatest novels ever written.
Give us one more. Very quickly.
All right. And I'm only going here because I know that you and Mark love this one.
Yes.
And that is the 2007 Stephen King classic, The Mist.
You know what? Wasn't it Thomas Jane who was starring?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is Thomas Jane.
I love him as an actor, and he was perfect for this. They had Andre Braugher. I'm remembering the movie in my mind.
Yep.
All I'm saying is, if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. And if you have seen it, we're still arguing about that final scene.
Oh, no spoilers.
I'm going to get into it. I'm just saying we still argue about it.
It'll stay with you.
Oh, no, it stayed with me.
Brutal.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I could not believe. What? That's the end of the movie?
I know.
Not in a bad way, just in a shocked way.
It is one of the
Yes.
all-time great Stephen King adaptations, and as you know, those have been hit and miss.
This is true. A little spotty, but this one is phenomenal. I remember reading the short story when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. And when the movie came out, they so often don't hold up. And this really did. It's directed by Frank Darabont, who is one of my all-time favorite directors and a heck of a nice guy. I met him one time. And
Everybody just dropping names up in here today.
like, hey,
I got
Chris,
Nicolas Cage. I got Kenneth Branagh.
Did he put a tip in your G-string?
I'm going to turn off your mic in a second.
right? He's in so many troubles. So good. But Laurie Holden from The Walking Dead's in it. Marcy Gay Harden from The Morning Show.
That's right. Yes. I
Yeah.
forgot she's in it.
Yeah, great cast. And again, with King and Darabont, like, you're sleeping with the lights on because this one's terrifying.
Let me just say, to tell the truth, when I was a kid, I couldn't. It's part of the reason I don't watch horror movies all that much today, because there were times where I would sleep with the lights on because certain stuff would just stick with you. That's why I didn't watch Night Gallery. Mark, we talk about Night Gallery. Couldn't watch it because it would stick with me.
It's not too late.
No, get on it.
No,
Rod Serling classic.
I know, but I might have to sleep with the lights on. Chris Woolsey, Vizio TV. Tell us one more time about Vizio TV, what they're doing, and how we can learn more.
What we are making an incredibly amazing connected TV product at a value price on Vizio TV. We have WatchFree Plus. It is a free streaming service. You can watch tens of thousands of premium movies and TV shows. You never have to pay for any of it.
Free.
My
goodness. Doesn't that just sound just wonderful? Just so comfortable, like a warm pillow. Just free.
It's a beautiful word.
Chris Woolsey, I'll see you again soon.
Oh, you will.
I miss you,
back.
my brother.
I miss you too. I'm so glad to be back, and thank you for having me back.
Hopefully next week.
Sure.
All right.
Done
then.
and done.
It's a date.
All right, then.
Mark, you coming?
I have no place else to go.
Okay. It's Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Over the past few days, we've been playing portions of the various press conferences. From a law enforcement standpoint, we hear from Sheriff Luna, or we'll hear from LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell, or we'll hear from LA County DA Nathan Hochman, and they're all very clear, and I would say on the same page as far as prosecuting the criminals. And the criminals are not just the looters. It's not just the people who are trying to take advantage of the people who've lost their houses, but taking advantage of people through online scams, fake places to donate, and stealing people's identities. There is a lot of that going on, and it's not just specific to this disaster. Every time in which people are in need during times like these, you will have criminals or would-be criminals trying to take advantage of that. And I know it can get overwhelming. Who should I trust? I get a message every single day. I do, from questionable sources, questionable organizations, places I've not heard of before. And it's taking advantage of what I think is true of everyone. We want to be a positive force. We want to be able to help someone. And sometimes we don't exhibit the best judgment in choosing how to do that. So what I wanted to share with you right now, some legitimate organizations which are helping victims of the California wildfires. And just in case you're not sure where to turn to or whom you should trust, just give you some organizations. I'm quite sure many of them you have heard of already. Some you may not have, but they've already been vetted. So that's not anything you need to worry about. There's always the American Red Cross, and CBS has partnered with the American Red Cross to support the communities in need. The organization said it is staffing evacuation centers and providing supplies. There's the World Central Kitchen, which is founded by Chef Jose Andres, said it has mobilized across Southern California, providing sandwiches and water throughout the region. The charity said its volunteer chefs are on standby to give out meals. There's the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation, and the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation has called for donations to its Wildfire Emergency Fund. Those proceeds will go toward equipping firefighters with tools and supplies to contain the infernos. I'm sure you can find these websites. Trying to get through all this information. You can find it online. And if you should forget, you can always listen to the podcast to get the names of these organizations. There's also the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, and they are accepting food donations and volunteers. You can also be involved in their distribution process. There's the California Fire Foundation, and it has said it is working with local fire departments and community organizations to support impacted residents financially. The group's Wildfire and Disaster Relief Fund directly supports victims of blazes and other disasters throughout the state. Again, that's the California Fire Foundation. And also want to tell you about League of California Community Foundations. It is a coalition of the state's nonprofits, and they are coordinating relief efforts for people affected by the Palisades and Eaton fire specifically. The California Community Foundation said funds raised after previous disasters have helped rebuild homes, restore lost belongings, and provide support services such as mental health management. They have a long and verifiable track record. There's the Anderson Bunker Family YMCA in Los Angeles, and it's seeking donations of food, snacks, water, and essential and emergency supplies. The Y said on Instagram it is accepting deliveries at its Koreatown location. Also, there's the International Medical Corps. The Los Angeles-based International Medical Corps has been coordinating with local health groups to deliver relief supplies, including hygiene and first aid kits, to communities affected by the fires. The group also said it is ready to provide additional support and services to health facilities if needed. There's Direct Relief, and it's an aid group, and it's bringing in emergency health care supplies for community clinics, evacuation centers, and local residents affected by the fires. Also, it's providing N95 masks, hygiene kits, emergency medical packs, and other essentials to partner organizations on the ground in L.A. There's the Best Friends Animal Society. Best Friends Animal Society, which runs a pet adoption center in West L.A., says all donations will be used for emergency assistance to animals impacted by the wildfires. And there's also a list of other charities which have been vetted. Some we have featured on this show, such as the Pasadena Humane Society, California Community Foundation, the Ventura County Community Foundation, American Red Cross of Greater LA, Center for Disaster Philanthropy, and others. And again, if you missed any of those organizations or you wanted to hear it again, it will be on the podcast later tonight. You can find that at KFIAM640.com or on the iHeart Radio app or wherever you download your podcasts.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We were playing back some of the more important moments of the press conference earlier today. There's one each day, usually in the morning, and it gives different information. So don't think that just because you might have heard yesterday that you've heard everything you need to know. There are updates about the curfew, for example. There are updates as far as resources and locations where you can get goods and services, supplies, just other forms of relief, which we've been discussing. So it's always good to make sure that if you don't tune in to the press conference, the daily briefing live, try to check it out somewhere you can find it online, or you can listen back to this show. We'll have it for you, or at least some of the highlights of it. And now I want to play LAPD Chief Jim McDonald and what he had to say earlier today.
I just want to let everyone know that as we enter into another period of dangerously high winds, we remain deployed and ready to assist with any additional evacuations should that need arise. While peak winds are not expected to be as strong as last week's wind event, they still pose a tremendous threat. And if you're asked to evacuate, please listen to all evacuation orders, as they are meant as a life-saving measure. As has been the case over the last few days, LAPD is focused on maintaining your safety and the safety of your properties as we move forward. As far as deployment goes, LAPD officers are still performing increased patrols in the areas impacted by the fires, and we ask for your continued cooperation. especially with our officers who deployed at various checkpoints throughout the evacuation zones. We understand the frustration and your desire to see your homes firsthand, but until CAL FIRE tells us that the impacted areas are safe for repopulation, we can't allow you to return. For the upcoming 24-hour period, LAPD will continue to deploy approximately 750 officers to the impacted areas with support from the Los Angeles Airport Police, Port Police, and the National Guard. They have 200 soldiers assigned to the Palisades event, and we're certainly grateful for their support. We're supporting the fire area with these badly needed resources while continuing to respond to calls throughout the city. I'd like to thank our LAPD officers and everybody who's represented by those who are standing here today, who are working on overtime away from their homes and families, going the extra mile to keep Los Angeles safe. On the missing persons front, we're still actively investigating all reports of missing persons and have dedicated resources to these efforts. As of this morning, we have 34 people reported missing. 21 of them have been found safe. Of the 13 remaining, 2 have most likely been found deceased but have yet to be positively identified. 11 remain unaccounted for. In total, 3 fatalities that are fire-related. 1 fatality died at a hospital but was not reported missing. On the arrest front, we've made 14 arrests. Failure to obey curfew were 3 of those. Impersonating an officer, 1. Impersonating a firefighter, another. Unauthorized entry to a closed emergency area, 2. DUI, 1. Vandalism, 1. Possession of ammunition and burglary tools, another 1. Burglary, 2. And conspiracy to commit burglary, 2 additional. We have 3 noteworthy arrests throughout the, although outside the fire zone, very significant to our efforts as we continue to battle fires that threaten our community. On Sunday night, our North Hollywood officers responded to a call of a possible arson suspect who was using a barbecue lighter to light fires. Officers arrived on the scene and the suspect was arrested for an outstanding felony warrant for arson and booked into Van Nuys Jail. On Monday, 2 additional arrests related to the fires. The first took place at 5700 Van Nuys Boulevard at approximately 16:30 hours. Our West Valley officers responded to a radio call for an arson suspect who had ignited a nearby brush. Upon arrival, LAFD was at scene, extinguishing the fire, and directed the officers to the possible suspect, who was taken into custody there. The suspect was booked for arson, again at Van Nuys Jail. Our second arrest took place at 11820 San Vicente Boulevard in West LA area. Officers responded to a radio call of an arson suspect at the location who had ignited a nearby trash can, which was extinguished by the LA City Fire Department. Citizens directed the officers to the suspect location, where he was then taken into custody without incident. Video from local businesses showed footage of the suspect starting fires in that area. He was booked into our jail for arson. On looting front, excuse me. Looting is not just a crime against property, it also takes away any sense of security from evacuated residents, and certainly it's not being tolerated at all. LAPD officers are working around the clock to prevent looting in impacted areas and will identify and apprehend those responsible. However, we cannot do this alone. We need your help. And as you heard from the accounts I gave you, it was residents of our city and county who have stepped forward, made observations of people lighting fires, called the police, we responded, and were able to take them off the street. So thank you for those who have been involved in that, and I ask for your vigilance for as we move forward. We're asking all members of our community to join us in this effort by reviewing your personal security footage, whether from Ring cameras, home security systems, or any other recording devices. Even seemingly small details can make a big difference in our ongoing investigations. If you notice anything suspicious or potentially connected to these incidents, please report it to us immediately, and you can do so anonymously through Crime Stoppers by calling the LA Crime Stoppers at 800-222-TIPS or by visiting lacrimestoppers.org. You can also provide information regarding the Palisades fire by submitting tips by texting ATFLA to 63975 and then follow the link to be able to create a report. Our collective safety depends on the partnership between police and our community. Together we can ensure that those responsible for these crimes are brought to justice and that our neighborhoods remain safe. Sheriff Luna talked about the curfew. Likewise, in the city, the curfew order will remain in place tonight from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and unless you're public safety personnel or disaster workers, you have no business being at these locations. And if you are in those areas, you are subject to arrest. As I've mentioned, we've already made a number of arrests for individuals who are not listening to these orders, and we want to be very clear about that we will find you if you're out there and you will be arrested. Please allow our teams to focus on the recovery efforts. Enforcing a curfew helps us identify individuals who have no businesses in these areas and also protects public safety personnel who are operating in darkness and often very, very difficult conditions. In closing, I want to reiterate that our department is committed to the recovery efforts, and for however long that will take, we will continue to work alongside our other partners to make sure that our community has the resources that you need to recover and ultimately rebuild. Thank you for your patience and cooperation during this difficult time.
And we'll close out this hour hearing from LA Mayor Karen Bass.
Let me just say that yesterday, as the chief mentioned, we did an aerial tour, and I was able to see, it's one thing to see it on television. It's another thing to see it from air. The massive, massive destruction is unimaginable until you actually see it. So I think of the families, I think of the community members that have experienced that, and I just have to say that we are going to continue to stand with you. But while we're preparing for the next couple of days, we also want to move into the time when we prepare for moving forward and rebuilding, but making sure that we can get people's lives back in whole. I have to say that when the aerial tour was finished, and I had an opportunity to speak to the firefighters, including our chief, firefighters who've been on the job for 25, 30 years, to say to me that in their entire careers, they have never seen destruction like this. They have never seen wind so fierce. In Los Angeles, in California, we don't know hurricanes. But imagining a dry hurricane and thinking about what they went through and their lives on the line. From the air, we could see people on the ground clearing brush and doing everything that they needed to prevent the next tragedy. So everybody wants to know how to help first responders. Well, the way you can help first responders, and you've heard this from other speakers, is to be prepared. So if you hear that your area is under a warning, then get packed right away. If the order is to evacuate, then evacuate immediately. But as was recommended earlier, evacuate if you have the warning, because if you remember a few days ago when the fires were at its worst, people had difficulty getting through traffic. So thinking of moving forward, yesterday I signed an executive directive to begin to lay the foundation policy-wise for the rebuilding effort. We're going to make it through these next few days, but we want to begin to think about how we rebuild the massive destruction that I saw from the air. We don't want people burdened by red tape and bureaucracy. So my executive directive addresses that. It addresses streamlining the debris removal. It talks about actually immediate action that we can take to make 1,400 units of housing available immediately. Again, that was stuck in the process, but given what we're dealing with now, that process has to go. And then establishing a framework to secure additional regulatory relief and resources. As was mentioned, the assistance centers will start today. The first ever disaster recovery center for victims of the Palisades and Hertz fires will open, which will help people who have lost vital records, birth certificates, driver's license, Social Security, etc. Help those who have experienced loss or damage to their homes apply for disaster relief loans, and provide referrals. We heard the public health officers say that nurses will be available at the disaster recovery centers, but also mental health counselors will be as well. So for more information, you can go to lacity.gov. So the center opens at 1 p.m. this afternoon at the UCLA Research Park, and starting tomorrow will be open from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m., 7 days a week. And that's a commitment that every single day we will be addressing people putting their lives back together. So I want to thank UCLA Chancellor Julio Frank. I want to thank Gary Michelson. The South Coast Air Quality Management District is recommending that Angelenos wear the well-fitting medical-grade mask while outside. The City of Los Angeles has distributed hundreds of N95 masks throughout Los Angeles in public libraries, recreation centers, and senior centers, and local nonprofits, and we encourage families to pick up their masks today. And finally, I want to acknowledge the thousands of Angelenos who have come together all across the city to help. I'm sure you've seen on the nightly news, hundreds, thousands of people just showing up with providing resources and supplies for victims. But I also want to thank Disney, Netflix, the Wasserman Foundation, Hilton Foundation, Annenberg, SNAP, and so many others for donating millions of dollars to relief efforts. The California Community Foundation's effort has resulted in $14 million and over 20,000 donors. LA, we stand together. We will do what we need to do to be safe over the next couple of days, and then we rebuild. We will rebuild Los Angeles and make Los Angeles the world-class city that we are.
I'm Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
When fire strikes Southern California, KFI News is on it.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live.